What's going on, YouTube? It is December 10th, 2025, 3:20 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to talk about silver being over $61. We're going to talk about a lot. Taxing the rich. Now that's the solution, man. If you could take a moment to like and subscribe. I'm trying to get this channel to grow. I would appreciate it. Nothing in this video is financial advice. Do your own research. Form your own opinions. These are merely mine. Not going to get into specific metal prices at this time. I will tell you that I looked a few minutes ago and silver, according to CMI, was at $61.16, I believe. Now I got to check because I said it. 61.16. Oh, I guess I will. Gold 41.95. Palladium 1670, platinum 1513, GSR is 68.61. Crazy, because we haven't seen it that low in a long time. Gold is below $4,200 now. Silver is the only metal up for the day at this point in time, and while it's very exciting, I'm going to say, and again, not a crystal ball, not a financial advisor, a pullback has to happen at some point. Okay? It's a healthy correction. The bull run's been crazy. Let's be honest. I mean, think about it. What, 6-7 months ago, not even that long, 20 of these bad boys was worth about $500, $550. Now it's worth over $1,200, give or take. That's insane. That's insane. Gold in the last 18, 19, 20 months has more than doubled. That's insane. That's insane. There has to be a pullback. Now, I'm going to make the, I don't want to say prediction, but I'm going to say if gold, platinum, and palladium, particularly gold, but I think all matter, if they continue to move downward, over, let's see, what's today? Today would now be Wednesday morning. I would say, the next day or two, I would expect a pullback for silver would be coming. And that doesn't mean it's a big one. Remember, silver reacts after other metals, particularly gold. So, just food for thought. Okay, I have, actually yesterday, it's still today because I haven't gone to bed and gotten up yet, but yesterday technically, I actually had the privilege to have a conversation with two interesting individuals in person about pretty much the same thing. One of them blames rich people for everything, monetarily wise, and disagrees with me that the best thing that the government can do is get out of our way. They like government regulations. And the other one thought we should tax the rich. And here's what's interesting. I engaged with both of them. And the one that thinks that government taking us off the gold standard and the silver standard was a good thing. Wow. I engaged with for a couple minutes, and I can tell pretty quickly by how somebody responds to the things that I enlighten them about that they don't know which way it's going to go, if I'm going to make an impact or if it's going in one ear and coming out the other. And I made a comment to that individual. I said, the only people who hate money are the ones that don't understand it and don't have it. He goes, well, I love money, I just hate rich people. And I said, the only people that hate rich people are the ones that want to be rich people and aren't rich people and want the rich people to make them rich people, to be taxed into wealth distribution, to be taxed into prosperity, which never works, cannot happen. And it didn't go, the impact wasn't made, and that's okay. And this is not a flex. One of them is significantly younger than me, and that's the one I think I reached to a degree, and that's the positive part of this video. But I'm not rich, but I have far more than they do. And not that long ago, when I was 28, I was right where that person is. Broke. But what do I know? Now the next one talked about how we need to tax rich people because things are unfair. I said, okay. And I listened. And it was the things that you normally hear, It was handed to them, which sometimes yes, oftentimes no. The majority of times no. It was stated that the rich people, do arrogant things because they have money. It makes them a certain way. And I said, actually, somebody is what they are. If someone's a friggin' a-hole, they're going to be a bigger a-hole with money. If someone's a generous, giving person, a kind person, they're going to be a more generous person when they have money because they can afford to be. Money doesn't create your personality. It accentuates it. Most of the time. Actually, I would say all the time, because if you acquire a bunch of assets and become wealthy and become an a-hole, you were really an a-hole the whole time. You just weren't comfortable letting that out. So money doesn't define your personality. It accentuates it. It elaborates on it. It brings it out. And again, I don't have money. I'm not a rich person. I'm not a wealthier person. I'm just wealthier than most, if you crunch the numbers. And that doesn't mean jack. I'm wealthier than I was every day. So that's a good thing. And I started talking with this person, and I said, okay, why do you want to tax the rich? And I got those answers, but I also got, well, they need to pay their fair share. And I said, okay. I said, let me tell you about electricity for a business. I said, because a lot of rich people own businesses that you and I buy goods and services from, Walmart, Nike, Chipotle, Taco Bell, whatever it is. And yeah, we can get into the whole corporations and LLC, but rich people still own these, okay? And I said, let me tell you how power, at least in my area, works. She goes, okay. I said, it's measured in kilowatt hours. Did you know that a residence gets charged per kilowatt hour and a business gets charged at twice the rate per kilowatt hour? How's that fair? Where does that get passed on to? And there was kind of a twinkle. I said, that's right, you and me when we go to buy goods and services. I said, another reason you don't want to tax rich people, because they own businesses, a lot of them, is because when you tax them, they have to raise the prices of goods and services to you and I, the consumer, to maintain profitability at the percentage that it's at. And then she goes, well, they should pay their people more. I said, but that's going to result in the same thing. And if they're paying their people more and charging more for their goods and services, the people aren't getting ahead either, because everyone else is making more money if they're at the lower, wage earning levels, which means they're paying more for everything else where they go, right? Your person bottling that milk, making minimum wage, they get a raise. Well, now you got to pay more for that milk. That person bagging your groceries at 7-Eleven, pumping your gas, ringing you up at Chevron, whatever it is, making minimum or close to minimum wage, if they get a raise, now you got to pay more for that good and service. And again, I kind of saw that twinkle. And then it was kind of asked, well, then what do I do? I said, you buy assets. I said, you are significantly younger than me. I said, and I asked about the living situation, the cost of living. And I asked so I could get that person to say out loud the answer. And it was a female. And then she said, well, did you ask me that to degrade me? I said, absolutely not. I said, I asked you those questions so you could hear yourself answer out loud, because I want you to take this away from the conversation. She says, what's that? I said, when I asked you if you spend money going out to eat, with a lower cost of living than I have, because, we're talking teenager, lives at home, right? Rent free, and it should be. I said, do you blow a significant amount of money a week on, by the way, very hard worker, very respectable person, really like this person. actually an impressive person, to be honest with you. I said, do you spend money on Taco Bell, McDonald's, Starbucks, whatever it is? Yeah. I said, okay, do you realize if you would spend, just cut it in half or a third, whatever you do, take that money, invest in an asset like, silver or physical gold, physical silver, or, put it in a 4% savings account, do something, buy an ETF that averages a 10% annual return with a 3% dividend. Okay, put it in those things, or split it amongst all of them. I said, if you start now, you will be so filthy rich by the time you're ready to be done. But you got to start. And I think I made an impact, y'all. I really do with the second one. The first one, I think that ship has sailed. Anybody who believes in government not getting out of the way, in free markets not deciding, in capitalism not being the answer, there's not a lot of hope there. Okay? In my opinion. That's just me. Second one, really hope I enriched her life. Really hope I made an impact, because that's the truth. And it amazes me that in this day and age, people don't understand this. I'm not talking about the young folks. I'm talking about the and I'm not even middle aged. I'm 30 years from death, ish. God, I hope I have at least 30 years. Woo. I'd like to have more, if they're quality, but it amazes me that adults, middle-aged, late-age adults, don't know this. If you are not, my voice cracked, I guess I'm going through puberty. Maybe I'm not that old after all. If you are not putting your money, and I'm going to say it again, a good growth ETF fund with a dividend, a good stock, that is an asset, okay? Gold, silver, platinum, palladium, assets. Scrap copper, asset, I suppose. Yeah, I guess it would be. If you're not putting your money into those things, your cash, your hard-earned cash, and if you're not finding a way to earn more cash and spend less cash to put into those things, it amazes me that any adult over the age of 30, 32 at the latest hasn't figured that out. It's mind-blowing. Absolutely mind-blowing. So if I can influence people, and my old man tried this with me. He tried to tell me when I was younger how to invest, and he did stack physical gold and silver. It wasn't nearly as much of a portion of his portfolio as it is mine, but he had it, which is probably where I learned it and picked it up later in life. I just took it further, a lot further, and still do. But if you're not doing those things, and starting when you're young, like he instilled in me, which I figured out 10 years later than I should have. I started to really figure this out about 28. And I didn't really get into overdrive till my 30s and my 40s, early 40s. And that sucks. It's wonderful, but I wish that I would have listened. So if I can reach somebody that's younger and they can say, damn, I'm going to do that. I'm going to listen to this old bald guy. Maybe he knows something. That's awesome, because most people, and here's the deal. Most people won't, but here's the deal. Even if they don't do that right now, maybe they'll do what I did. And when they get to a point in their life where they're tired of being poor, and tired of being broke, and tired of having nothing, and tired of living paycheck to paycheck, not knowing how the bills are going to get paid, maybe they'll revert back to this, and that'll be part of their growth process. And they'll be like, hey, I remember what someone told me. Maybe I should start doing that. Sometimes it makes sense later. So I really hope that's the case. That's why I think it's so important for us to bounce ideas off each other, to network off of each other. And I know it's probably more important now than ever that you find a way to get assets. And I don't care what you have to do, as long as you're not doing the wrong thing, hurting people, stuff like that, stealing, but you need to figure out a way to start adding some assets. It's getting a little bit late in the game. It's not too late. It's never too late. But assets are inflated. Most of them. It's time to get on the ball, people. Figure it out. Find a way. Spend less. Save more. Invest harder. Keep stacking.